Persona 5! Did that catch your attention? Good. Now I can stop pretending to be an incompetent game reviewer. So let me get serious and talk about Shin Megami Tensei V, spoiler-free. You know, I have so much to say about this series. Shin Megami Tensei is a franchise I grow more attached to with every game I play. But I want to explain that in more detail some other time, because I need to gather some money to invite a certain someone.
You never pay me!
And I still won't pay you. So anyway, what I was trying to say is that Shin Megami Tensei V has so many things I love about the series. If I have to start from somewhere, is with the combat. Since this is the first time I talk about Shin Megami Tensei on this channel, unless you count Tokyo Mirage sessions, let me give you a quick rundown. SMT is all about recruiting and fusing demons that aid you in battle, as well as learning and exploiting enemy weaknesses. 5 uses a system called Press Turn that was introduced in Nocturne, where you can gain more actions on the same turn if you strike an enemy with the right element or score a critical. But at the same time, missing attacks or hitting a demon with an element it's strong against will cost you more actions. And to make matters worse, enemies are just as capable as you are of exploiting this system. This is one of the main reasons I love SMT combat so much, because it's so easy to grasp, but the battles have a lot of strategy, as I must always take into account my own character, the demons that accompany me, what role everyone needs to fulfill, and elemental affinities for my team and the enemies. 5 spices things up with the Magatsuhi skills. As your battles progress, this bar right here starts to fill up, and once it's ready, you can unleash different effects in battle, from guaranteed critical hits, attacks that hit twice as hard but also cost double, or a devastating almighty skill that obliterates all on screen. And it's so cool because, again, enemies are also capable of doing that. Bosses put so much pressure on you as you try to find a way to survive their Magatsuhi. And even regular enemies can pose a threat if you're not careful. This is part of what makes SMT combat so good, because every battle has real weight to it. Like, the only problem I find with it is that some bosses take forever to die and they end up feeling like endurance tests. I will call them the lowest point of the game for me, but no! I still had a lot of fun making strategies to beat them. This, of course, is also cheap thanks to Demon Fusion. And 5 is at its best. Not only because making demons is easier, not only because of the wide catalog you have, but because of how flexible it is to customize them. It's so easy to make a demon exactly how you want it to be. By fusing them, you get full choice of which skills you pass down with only a few limitations. And even if you get better skills down the road, you can inherit them through essences that demons give you and you can find on the map. Demon Fusion has always been one of my favorite SMT mechanics, but I swear, in this game I spent even more hours just looking at the demons, thinking of all the strategies I could make. And by endgame, I even got a kick of making low-level demons get ridiculously high stats. Character customization is also great, the Nahobino can be anything you want him to be. And thanks to essences, he can acquire any skill in the game as long as it's not exclusive, which doesn't matter, because he also has his own unique skills. Only thing I felt backwards was how you build your stats. Now when you level up, some random stats go up, and you only get 1 point to assign whatever you want. I mean, in the end, I still had my magic juggernaut as I wanted, but I don't see any wrong in giving you full freedom in how you build your character, you know? Maybe they didn't want you to break the game so easily, but again, it wasn't that big of a bother, especially when miracles were introduced, which grant the Nahobino and his party powerful abilities for combat, exploration and fusion, from ways to filling your Magatsuhi gauge faster, give more experience to newly fused demons, increasing your skill potential, more skill slots, and so much more. It's so insane the amount of stuff you can unlock and how crazy powerful you feel as you progress. One could argue that this makes the game easier, which is true, but A, these are entirely optional, and B, dude, I can make my demons use items, how fucking cool is that? And even with all that, you know what else I forgot to mention? Despite this flexibility to build your party, and despite how powerful you can make yourself, SMT V is still fairly challenging. I played this on the standard difficulty and every area always had its own challenges. I love how well structured the difficulty curve is. I think the side quests are the best example of it. There were a ton of quests that involved beating these giant dudes on the map. Naturally, my first instinct when I saw them was to avoid them. But as soon as I got a quest that asked me to defeat a specific one, it was within my capabilities to do so. The game was challenging, but never bullshit. And since I'm on the topic, you know what was the dumbest complaint I heard about this game? That dying, kicking you back to the title screen disrespects the player and wastes time. And I'll be real, I find this complaint the perfect example of screaming on a wall. On one hand I get it. It's a step backwards from 4 where you could save at any time and resurrect yourself on the spot, but this is still incredibly generous. Save spots are everywhere, I'm serious. There are areas where you can see them almost next to one another. You can completely heal your party at a low price, you get a permanent item that you can use at any time to take you back to a safe spot. If elemental affinities are an issue, you can buy spy glasses that tell you enemy weaknesses, which, by the way, are incredibly cheap. And you're always warned if a huge battle is coming, so you can prepare yourself or return to save. I'll repeat what I said. The game is challenging, but never bullshit. If you lose a lot of progress because you forgot to save, on a game that gives you all possible means to avoid that, that is your fault. I'm dead serious. And wow, look at that! I almost forgot to talk about the open world. I think it's great because I believe it has a real purpose to exist. This isn't just any shitty map that, sure, is big, but it has nothing to do in it. 5 keeps its maps mostly linear, condensed, and always has you doing something. If I have to compare it with something, it will be with Xenoblade Chronicles. And not because of size, but rather because of all the areas you can reach. There's always a means to get anywhere. If you decide to go out of your way, you will be rewarded. Check this out, this chest contains an essence. Ooh, look at that! This other road has demons you can fuse. I like this open world because it feels just as relevant as the combat. To put an example, there was this one boss that gave me so much shit, and I had an idea on how to beat her, and by exploring, I was able to get the right essence that gave me the upper hand. And all because I was a bit curious. And moments like that are quite common throughout the game. I think the best part of it is how you can see the enemies on the field. It doesn't just make the place livelier, which is ironic, but it's so good how you can move past them and avoid enemy encounters. It saves you so much time. With this, I'm probably making SMT V sound like a near perfect game, and guess what? If we talk about it from a pure gameplay standpoint, yes, 5 is incredible! But the game as a whole suffers from a number of problems that hold it back. If you were to ask me what's my biggest issue with Shin Megami Tensei V, aside from the damage sponge bosses, I will say the narrative is very weak. For all it's worth, the story itself is alright. It's your standard law versus chaos conflict with some interesting moments in and there. The main problem are the characters. They are very bland and have some of the most cookie-cutter personalities I've seen in a long time, which came to me as a surprise. They all have these introduction cards when they first show up, which made me think they were gonna be very relevant. But I swear, half of them barely matter in the overall story. And here's what I wanted to clarify. I'm not saying you need to have social links or fuck your teacher while being a complete hypocrite of previous events that happened in your game. What the fuck is your problem, Persona 5? Sorry, I got carried away. But SMT V doesn't do much to make them a bit more than just drones of the story. Again, they're not the worst I've seen, but I guess that at this point I already had some sort of expectations. Take for example characters from previous games. Walter, Jonathan, Jimenez. You can argue that they're also plot devices for their respective alignments, but what makes me remember them is how likable they are. They feel like real people. I don't want to fight Jimenez because he was such a cool guy. I don't agree with Jonathan, but I still like him. Why did you think Walter is my most popular emote on my streams? Why do you think my friend Robert has Walter Wednesdays? It's because he's an incredibly memorable character. Do you see where I'm going with this? 5 is a weird case because at times it seems it tries to do something with them, but the end result falls flat on its face. I genuinely can't tell you more than half of the names of these characters. They were that forgettable. The only characters I can rescue were Amanosako and Naogami, which sure, you spent the most time with them, but it helps they are so likable. I don't mind Amanosako interrupting my progress because she's so funny and curious. I love Aogami because he's just a bro who supports you no matter what. And I gotta say, for as much as I enjoyed exploring the open map, it's honestly not very interesting in terms of world building. Like, it's a world that you explore because there's cool rewards around, not because you want to learn more about it. For example, in 4, I am fascinated with how the people of Tokyo struggle to survive. In Strange Journey, I love how unpredictable the Schwarzwald is and how it reflects human nature. 5 didn't offer much in that regard, and I found that quite disappointing. I will clarify again, SMT V is great from a pure gameplay standpoint, but you'll be surprised how much story, characters and world building help to enhance the experience. Why did you think I love Strange Journey to insane levels despite being a flawed game? Because it has a narrative and a world that had me hooked from beginning to end. I always wanted to know what will happen next, and it was so much fun to play. God, Strange Journey is so fucking good! Call me petty or whatever, but this issue stopped me from calling 5 my favorite Shin Megami Tensei game. And those aren't the only problems. For as much as I just praised the open world, I won't deny that at times it can get a bit annoying to traverse. Some areas are so condensed, it's really disorienting to know where you're going, and reading the map is not very intuitive. I believe the game could have benefited from vantage points so the players could get a better layout of the area. Now, combine those problems with the fact that the frame rate constantly stutters and I'll tell you, my head was hurting at times. I had to occasionally take breaks. If close areas had been more spacious and the camera wasn't so close to the Nahobino, that would have made exploration more pleasant. As for the frame rate, I think it's even worse than Breath of the Wild. I'll give the game credit though. I can justify the shaky frame rate because everything looks phenomenal! The presentation is top notch! The UI is so clean and... Hold on a second. Is that the same from Tokyo Mirage Sessions? Holy fuck! That game always finds a way to crawl back into my mind, which makes this photo of Tao Sida all more relevant now. The environments are very good looking. Atlus really nailed the feeling of a post-apocalyptic world. And while some of them have problems, I like how every area has its own tone and they all feel so different from one another. But without a doubt, my favorite part about it are the demons! Each and every single one of them is so detailed and have so much personality. Like, I don't care about the static animations because they are so varied for many different demons. And even then, some others have unique skills that are such a treat to watch. I assure you, dear viewers, spamming Cleopatra's Frolic is absolutely vital to win this battle. To give you an idea, I'll put it like this. SMT V is one of the few games that made me prefer 3D models over 2D sprites. And you know, I'm super biased for the latter. I'll go back to what I said. The frame drops are annoying, sure, but this game is clearly pushing the Switch to its limits, and I can respect that. And did I say more about the music? Oh, I know Shoji Meguro is known as the Atlus composer, but if you ask me, Ryota Kosuka is just as good. His work on 4 was phenomenal, and he didn't slack off at all for 5. There weren't any standouts for me in the overworld, but in combat is where the music shines the most. I just love how varied it is. It never gets repetitive, and each track hypes you up for a battle. My personal favorite being... Shin Megami Tensei V is a game I've been expecting for quite some time, and I believe it was worth the wait. It's not my favorite Megaten experience, but fuck, it's still really fucking good! Yeah, it has boss battles that overstay their welcome, it has a shaky performance, the story is okay at best, and the open world could be less of a headache. But I don't care, because it's so fucking fun to play! If you look at it this way, 5 is the next step of the series. It toyed with new ideas, they're not all perfect, but they clearly could use some extra polish. The groundwork is there! Now let's just hope Atlus will expand on it to deliver something even better. And if this video somehow interested you in Shin Megami Tensei, I will say 5 is a great place to start. It's a very unique series, but one well worth looking into. Wouldn't you agree, Maka?
Am I getting paid now?
Absolutely not.
Well, I don't care because 5 is still an incredible game. Go buy it and show Atlas where the money's at. Please, I'll even give you a cookie. I just buy the game. I want this game to succeed. Ah!